Earth Zero is supposed to be the real DC Universe, the main one, the one that matters most, but it's also the one that has quietly rewritten itself more times than any other, erasing marriages, deleting characters, compressing decades of history into a 5-year window, and then pretending none of that ever happened. Here's every DC Universe explained, starting with the one that can't quite decide what it is. Earth Zero. Earth Zero is DC's headquarters universe, the prime setting, the one where the real stories happen. And it is, without question, the most editorially manipulated reality in the entire multiverse. After the 2011 Flashpoint event, DC rebooted into the New 52, with Earth Zero designated as the central timeline going forward. The Justice League formed for the first time. Superman was in his early days. Batman had roughly 5 years of experience. Everything was clean and accessible, in theory, but getting there required actively deleting things. Superman and Lois Lane's marriage, gone. Wally West, one of the most beloved characters in DC history, written out of existence entirely. Decades of continuity erased so the universe could present itself as fresh. Then, in 2016, DC Rebirth tried to walk some of that back. It restored legacy elements, brought Wally West back, and acknowledged something had been stolen from the timeline. But it didn't do a full reset. It layered new continuity on top of the erasure, which means Earth Zero now contains fragments of multiple contradictory histories, selectively remembered based on what the current editorial direction needs. That's not a stable universe. That's a universe held together by controlled amnesia. Batman with 5 years of experience breaks the logic of everything built around him, from Robin's history to his rogues gallery to the sheer infrastructure of what he's supposed to represent. Critics called it oversimplification, wearing a fresh coat of paint. They weren't wrong, but if Earth Zero is the unstable headquarters, Earth 2 is something stranger entirely. Earth 2. Most DC universes have a memory problem. They reboot, retcon, and erase until the past stops existing. Earth 2 does the exact opposite. Originally introduced in 1961's The Flash, 1013, Earth 2 was DC's way of explaining why two versions of the same hero could exist simultaneously. Jay Garrick ran alongside Barry Allen. Alan Scott lit up the same sky as Hal Jordan. The Golden Age didn't get erased, it got preserved. Then the 2012 New 52 reboot arrived and completely overhauled the premise. Earth 2-1 opens mid-apocalypse. Darkseid's forces are tearing the planet apart, and Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman are dead within the first issue. That's not a spoiler. That's the opening. The story doesn't start before the tragedy. It starts in the rubble after it. Here's what makes Earth 2 genuinely unusual. Its in-universe timeline is set so that heroes first appeared around 1938, exactly when DC started publishing Golden Age comics in the real world. That's a deliberate meta-narrative choice. Jay Garrick and Alan Scott didn't just exist before the reboot in this universe. They've been operating for over 70 years within the story itself. The history is real, it's earned, and nobody is pretending it didn't happen. And then Apocalypse won, not temporarily, not in a way that got reversed by issue 3. Darkseid's forces occupied Earth 2 for 15 years. 30-plus issues chronicled what that actually looked like before the Resistance finally pushed back. That almost never happens in superhero fiction. Usually, the invasion is defeated before the credits roll. Earth 2, let it stick. The common misconception is that this is just pre-Crisis Earth dressed up in New 52 packaging. It isn't. This is a distinct universe with its own divergent history, its own dead heroes, its own occupied timeline. It doesn't inherit the old continuity. It built something new and chose, deliberately, to remember everything the main DC universe keeps forgetting. That's the whole point of Earth 2. It's the universe that holds on to things. If Earth 2 is defined by heroes who sacrifice everything to hold a line, Earth 3 is defined by what happens when the line doesn't exist in the first place. Earth 3. Most evil universes are just regular universes with worse people in charge. Earth 3 isn't that. Earth 3 runs on different rules, not different politics, not different history, different physics. On Earth 3, heroism is illegal, not frowned upon. Illegal. The crime syndicate, this universe's ruling class, didn't rise to power by being the strongest. They rose by being the cruelest most efficiently. Ultraman, their Superman analog, loses his powers near gold instead of kryptonite because the periodic table itself works differently here. Here's the thing though, all of that reversed moral physics framing sounds like interesting world building. A dark mirror universe where everything flipped. Fun concept, but it misses the actually disturbing part entirely. Earth 3 isn't natural. Owlman built it. Using a stolen boom tube generator, he engineered this universe from scratch. The crime syndicate conquered Earth 3 around 1938 and established the Justice League as their personal paramilitary enforcement arm. But the universe those events happened in was a constructed environment. Every physical quirk that rewired inspires the rules of power wasn't some cosmic accident. That was someone's programming. Forever Evil revealed this in 2014, and it reframes everything. When Ultraman weakens near gold instead of kryptonite, that isn't evidence of a universe built on opposite principles. That's evidence of a universe built by someone with very specific preferences. There's also a misconception worth killing here. The 1960s stories established Lex Luthor as the heroic rebel of Earth-3, the one good man fighting the Syndicate, and that version stuck in pop culture. The Arrowverse ran with it, but modern canon says something completely different. Luthor isn't the hero of Earth-3, he's their prisoner, which is, not ideal for accuracy. What Owlman actually created was a universe where evil isn't a choice. It's a law of physics. Goodness doesn't just struggle here. It literally cannot function. The universe won't allow it, and he made it on purpose. If Earth-3 unsettles you because someone engineered an entire reality to be cruel, wait until you hear about the universes that didn't need any help getting there. The dark multiverse is full of them, and every single one was born from a nightmare, the dark multiverse. Most alternate universes in DC exist because of divergent choices, butterfly effects, timelines that split at the exact moment someone turned left instead of right. The dark multiverse doesn't work like that. It exists because of fear. Specifically, every single worst-case scenario you've ever had about how something could go horrifically wrong collapsed into a physical dimension and left to rot. Introduced in 2017's Dark Knights, the dark multiverse sits beneath the main multiverse like a basement nobody wants to go into, and for good reason. It's composed of infinite unstable realities, each one born from a collective nightmare, a feared possibility, a trauma that never healed. These universes form, fester, and collapse. The entire dimension has no stable time flow, runs on sentient shadows and fear energy, and if you want to travel through it, you need nightmare-powered artifacts to survive the trip, which is, not ideal. Here's where it gets genuinely unsettling. These aren't just broken universes. They're alive. Each dark multiverse reality forms around a specific traumatic anchor event, and that event becomes the heart of the universe itself. The Dark Knights are the clearest example of this. Each one is a version of Batman whose life bent around a single founding fear until it consumed everything else entirely. Batman who was afraid of losing control became the thing he feared most. Batman who was afraid of being powerless fused himself with something that made power the only thing left. The fear doesn't just shape the universe, it becomes the universe. But here's the thing that makes the dark multiverse genuinely horrifying rather than just depressing. These realities don't just collapse quietly, they reach. Every dark multiverse universe is actively trying to infect the main multiverse, using its founding fear as a weapon. Destabilization isn't a side effect of these universes dying. It's a survival strategy. The whole dimension operates as a predatory ecosystem, where dying realities latch onto stable ones and drain them to keep themselves going a little longer. That's exactly what happened during Metal, when Barbatos led the Dark Knights, evil Batman variants, from collapsing dark multiverse realities into the main multiverse. They weren't invading because they were evil in the traditional sense. They were invading because their worlds were dying, and they needed somewhere else's energy to survive. The dark multiverse isn't a bad neighborhood. It's a parasite with infinite mouths. If you think that's a lot to process, the Absolute Universe takes everything you think you know about DC's structure and starts over from scratch entirely. The Absolute Universe DC has tried a lot of things over the decades. Parallel Earths, dark multiverses, crisis events that wipe out entire realities. But in 2024, they tried something genuinely unusual. They tried to see what DC looked like rebuilt from the ground up, with trauma at the center of every origin. The Absolute Universe launched as a line of reimagined titles completely isolated from main continuity. The core concept is simple and kind of brutal. What if the heroes never got the support systems that made them heroes? No Alfred raising Bruce, no loving Kent family grounding Clark, no Paradise Island giving Diana a foundation of safety. These are characters shaped by the same tragedies but without the scaffolding that usually catches them. The result is DC's most iconic figures as genuinely dangerous, destabilized people rather than reassuring paragons. Here's the thing. Stripping away the safety nets was supposed to make these characters feel raw and real, and it mostly worked, which is not the outcome anyone predicted going in. Take Absolute Batman. In main continuity, Bruce Wayne is a billionaire with unlimited resources, a genius tactician who uses wealth as a superpower. In the Absolute Universe, he's broke. No Wayne fortune, no Batcave full of technology, no butler keeping the operation running. He builds his suit out of salvaged parts and operates out of sheer obsessive will. Writer Scott Snyder described it as the version of Batman who has no business being Batman, which somehow makes him more compelling rather than less. When a character has everything everything, their success is expected. When they have nothing, every win lands differently. The line launched with Absolute Batman #1 in October 2024, followed by Absolute Superman and Absolute Wonder Woman, with strong early sales and genuine critical attention. Whether it sustains that momentum is the real question. Reimagined Universe lines have a history at DC of burning bright and collapsing fast once the novelty wears off. The premise only carries you so far. Eventually, the stories have to justify the reimagining on their own terms. The debate it's already generating is genuinely interesting. Is this just an Elseworlds story with better marketing, or does the systematic removal of privilege and support across every major hero say something specific about what these characters actually are underneath the mythology? Because if you take everything away and they're still compelling, that's an answer worth having. Turns out DC might be onto something. For once, Kingdom Come asked the same question from a completely different angle, and what it found was far more unsettling than a universe still figuring out what it wants to be. The Kingdom Come universe? Kingdom Come is the only DC universe where the laws of physics are literally a popularity contest. That's not a metaphor. The Phantom Stranger says it out loud in the source material. The Age of Gods is ending because humanity stopped needing mythological explanations. And when humanity stops needing something in this universe, that something stops working correctly, superpowers included. Here's the thing. That makes Kingdom Come unlike every other universe in this list. Earth 3 has reversed morality. The dark multiverse runs on fear, but Kingdom Come runs on collective human faith, and the moment that faith starts cracking, the whole physical framework cracks with it. It's the only DC universe where cultural irrelevance is a force of nature. By the 2030s, a new generation of metahumans has torn the world apart with zero accountability and zero interest in old heroic codes. Superman has been in self-imposed exile for a decade. The Justice League is basically a museum exhibit. The UN's solution to thousands of rogue superhumans is to build suspended animation facilities and fill them with over 12,000 of the worst offenders. Ground Zero sits in Kansas. You can probably guess where that goes. When the Kansas containment site gets destroyed, it doesn't just kill thousands of metahumans in one catastrophic event. It triggers the exact apocalyptic scenario the old heroes spent their whole careers preventing, which is, not ideal. Power levels in this world have amplified significantly over time, Superman growing considerably stronger through decades without kryptonite exposure. But the more interesting physics aren't the ones being measured. They're the ones running on faith. Magic operates at elevated efficiency here. Mythology has literal weight, and as belief corrodes, the whole system destabilizes in ways raw strength can't fix. Kingdom Come started as a standalone Elseworlds story from 1996, Alex Ross painting an entire generation of DC history, aging out of relevance across 4 issues. It wasn't really about the plot, it was about superheroes becoming myths humanity had outgrown, and whether that was tragedy or inevitability. Final Crisis pulled it into the main multiverse as Earth 22, one of infinite possible futures, rather than a definitive timeline. Its canonical status actually depends on whether time travelers are aware of it, per Superman #149, which means it exists in a kind of multiversal Schrodinger's box, real enough to matter, uncertain enough to dismiss. That melancholy ambiguity is exactly what makes it work. If Earth 22 represents heroes made irrelevant by a world that moved on, Earth 10 went the other direction entirely, building a universe where the wrong people won and never stopped winning. Earth 10, most DC alternate universes are thought experiments. What if heroes were villains? What if magic didn't exist? Fun stuff. Earth 10 is something different. Earth 10 is a universe where the ideology of the Third Reich got encoded into the laws of physics, and the entire thing is slowly collapsing under the weight of a contradiction it created for itself. Here's the setup. Earth 10 diverged when the Axis powers won World War II. The new Reichsman, led by Übermensch, a Kryptonian raised by Hitler and shaped into the regime's ultimate symbol of power, enforce a global fascist state. The Freedom Fighters, led by Uncle Sam, fight back. Dark, but not unusual by DC standards. But here's where it gets genuinely strange. Earth 10's reality doesn't just reflect the regime's ideology, it enforces it. The universe itself has been restructured so that fascist belief systems operate as physical law. You're not just living under a regime. The regime is atmospheric. It's in the sunlight. Even the superhero mythology got rewritten to serve that purpose. The analogs to familiar heroes draw their power from corrupted versions of magic and divine traditions, all retrofitted to reflect Aryan supremacist mythology. It's one of the more unsettling pieces of world-building DC has produced, because it's not just what if villains won. It's what if winning changed the rules of reality itself. Then you hit the core contradiction, and this is where it stops being dark world-building and starts being something that genuinely sits with you. The ideology Earth-10 is built on demanded the extermination of entire groups of people, and yet the sciences, arts, and intellectual traditions it sought to destroy are inseparable from the civilization it's trying to maintain. The foundation of the victory is built on things the victory was supposed to erase. That's not just morally monstrous, it's structurally incoherent, and Earth-10's reality, visibly fracturing in the multiversity storyline, reflects exactly that. There's also an ongoing debate about whether Earth-10 should exist as a concept at all. Grant Morrison's run drew criticism for how directly it engages with Nazi imagery and Holocaust-adjacent history. Some argued the specificity trivializes real atrocity. Others argued allegory only works when it's specific enough to hurt. Neither side is entirely wrong, which is probably why it never resolved. Earth-10 is the most politically uncomfortable universe on this list, and it's built that way on purpose. The ideology corrupted the physics. The victory requires an impossibility. The whole thing is visibly unraveling. Earth Prime has a very different problem, which is that it might not be a universe at all, so much as the place where all of these universes go to stop being real. Earth Prime. Here's the thing about Earth Prime. Every other universe we've covered today has something wrong with it. Dark physics, dead heroes, fascist sunlight, nightmare logic. But those universes are broken in ways that stay contained. Earth Prime is broken in a way that reaches through the screen and taps you on the shoulder. Officially designated Earth-33 in post-2007 continuity, Earth Prime first showed up in 1985's Crisis on Infinite Earths, as the one universe where DC Comics exists as fiction. Not a universe where superheroes are real. The universe where Grant Morrison sits at a desk and writes about the universe where superheroes are real. The universe where James Gunn gets name-dropped in Action Comics number 62 as the director of Superman Legacy. Our universe. This one. Its physics follow real-world science with zero supernatural phenomena. No Speed Force, no magic, no kryptonite, just regular boring reality where the DC multiverse is a publishing line. But here's where it gets complicated. Dr. Manhattan, a fictional character, stole 10 years from Earth Prime's timeline. That's the canonical event in DC Universe. Rebirth number 1. A being of pure nuclear energy that exists inside a story reached into the universe that defines what's real, took a decade of it, and walked off. Earth Prime spent 10 years shorter than it should have been because a comic book character got involved, which is, not ideal, and that's not even the destabilizing part. In Animal Man number 26, Buddy Baker broke the fourth wall completely. Not a wink at the camera, not a joke. He tracked down the actual source of his suffering, found the man responsible, and confronted him. Grant Morrison looked at Buddy Baker and said plainly, "You exist only because I write you." And then the issue ended. And Buddy Baker continued to exist only because Grant Morrison kept writing him. The Multiversity Guidebook introduced the writer's pulse, a vibrational frequency that measures Earth Prime's stability by tracking collective audience engagement. Not cosmic radiation, not solar energy. Reader attention. Earth Prime is the only universe in DC's entire multiverse whose continued existence is literally contingent on people caring about it. So let's follow that logic to where it actually goes. Earth Prime is stable because readers believe in the DC Universe. The DC Universe produces stories about Earth Prime. Earth Prime is the universe you're currently in. You are watching a video explaining these universes. You are, at this moment, generating the exact kind of engagement that the writer's pulse measures. You are not a passive observer of this system. You are load-bearing. Every other universe we covered today exists whether you know about it or not. Earth Prime exists partly because you do. I don't know what to tell you. That's just what the comics say. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, click the video on the screen now.